At first glance, Zelda Echoes of Wisdom may look like a classic top-down Zelda game. It even has dungeons with multiple floors, just like traditional Zelda. But it also blends the old with the new, and much like modern Zelda games like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, these dungeons can be completely embarrassed with the power of your imagination. And by imagination, I of course mean echoes. Echoes are the main mechanic you will be using in Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. They are used to fight for Zelda like Pokemon, but they are so much more than that. In this video, I'll be sharing 10 of my favorite echoes that you need to try out in Echoes of Wisdom. I'll be mentioning where and when you can find these echoes, but there will be no spoilers beyond that. If you liked the video or learned something cool, please leave a like and comment to help the video out. So let's get the obvious stuff out. The pot can be thrown to distract enemies, or you can just hop inside of one and sneak right past them. Kinda like Snake with a cardboard box. They also help out a ton with things like redeads, because for some reason, they make you immune to their scream. Perhaps the best early game echo that you get though is the bed. It can slowly heal you, which is nice, and you can speed that up by standing up and laying back down after each heart fills up, but more often than not, you'll be using the bed for one thing and one thing only: making stairs. These beds only cost 1 triangle to use, which makes them a very cost-effective method for crossing pitfalls or climbing objects for the early game. For combat early on, you'll want to try the sea urchin. These can be spammed to slowly kill all sorts of enemies. Birds will dive into them, and you can surround bigger enemies with a minefield of minor inconvenience to whittle them down. It's not pretty, but it is effective early on. But okay, so those are all the basic echoes from the early game you'll be using throughout your playthrough. But from here on, things get a little spicy, like game-breaking spicy. The first echo you'll be using to break the game is our little buddy, the Crawlchula. After finishing the tutorial dungeon and the intro of the game, you'll find these little guys in Hyrule Field, and they can be used with bind and reverse bond abilities to take Zelda to new heights. This little spider can take you straight to the top of mountains, volcanoes, you name it. It even skips through entire dungeons in seconds. Though you won't want to skip all of the water dungeon because it's home to what I am safely calling the best echo in the game. At least for the first, it's pretty obvious. The water block seems to be the best thing in the game, and much like the bed, the water block will likely end up one of your most used echoes for its utility alone. It's like a bed but better, and even though it can't heal you, it has another use that is arguably better. It anti-heals your enemies. If you haven't tried it yet, Zelda can use her bind ability to drown most enemies, and using this knowledge, we can turn the water block here into one of the strongest fighting echoes in the entire game. It makes it obvious which dungeon you should choose to tackle first, as getting this water block will make the rest of the game much easier for you. But the water block does have its limits, and sometimes you need to get a bird's eye view to find all of the collectibles around Hyrule. Once you make it to the Gerudo Desert, you will find some crows. Crows and other flying echoes make for a decent glider, allowing Zelda to hover around Hyrule in short bursts. But what if we could use this all the time? Well, spawn in a second crow and bind to it, then switch to reverse bond and activate the flying crow. This will take Zelda into the air. Let go of the reverse bond and switch back to holding the bird to use its hover ability. And when it starts getting tired, you can reset it by switching back to the reverse bond. Basically, you will have one bird that takes you up and around, and then the other that you can glide and direct with. Some birds work better for this than others, but you should be able to fly around Hyrule with any bird of your choice. If you just want to cover a lot of distance, you can hold some tasty meat instead of holding a second bird. This works like a carrot on a stick, though in this case it's a hunk of meat. The bird you've binded with will chase after the meat that Zelda is holding, allowing Zelda to cruise around Hyrule at will. For the best results though, I recommend starting from a high spot. Another funny way to accomplish something similar to this would be to use the Tornado while standing on a bed. The wind will bounce the bed up into the air, and you can continue summoning tornadoes to climb higher. This one feels a little less consistent than the water blocks or even the birds, but it does look really funny at least. For the final echoes, we'll be looking at some of the strongest monsters that you can get in the game. The water block is actually the strongest, I know, but for enemies that can't be drowned, we'll turn to these guys. Starting with the level 3 Lizalfos found here in Faron Wetlands. You can get here pretty easily with the bird method, but if you are going here early, it's going to be a tough fight. Unless of course you use our good friend the bombfish, which is also found during the mainline Zora quest. You can just drop a few to easily defeat the Lizalfos, although you probably can't summon him yet if you're doing this early game. He sure looks cool. Another easy way to defeat him, or any other living creature underwater, is to use the Buzz Blob found in that same region. These guys can be used in a similar way to the sea urchin, but they are much stronger and they stun enemies. But if you really just want to look big and strong, the next powerful echo to look for is located in the Eternal Forest. Make your way to this spot to find the level 3 Sword Moblin. He may look tough, and he is, but you can use the bombfish, sea urchins, or buzz blobs to carefully take him out and add him to your collection. Sword moblins are great for fighting thanks to their high damage and their shield, which blocks and staggers some enemies. But while you're here, let's grab the legendary Lionel Echo. All you need to do is follow the tracks through the woods. If done correctly, the Lionel will spawn and kill you instantly. Unless of course you come prepared with some damage reducing smoothies. Then you can just spam sword mode and take him out. There's no denying the power of the Lionel, but for me, the best fighter echo has to be the Ball and Chain Trooper that you find in Hyrule Castle. Not only do these guys cost less to summon than the other fighters we've talked about, but they also have heavy armor which keeps them from being staggered. And thanks to the awesome spin attack that hits multiple times, they put out crazy DPS. And their second attack hits from a distance and can even hit flying enemies for you, making these guys an all-around, all-in-one powerhouse. I ended up relying on a pair of these guys to help me with almost every boss fight throughout the game. And speaking of bosses, you should be more than ready to take on everything the game has to throw at you now thanks to these echoes. As always, thank you for watching. Let me know what hidden uses you have found for your echoes in the comments, and leave a like on the video if you want to support it. Thanks for watching. See ya!